This is Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, brought to you by the Iowa Soybean Association, your daily recap of the information that affects Iowa's farmers, producers, and consumers, right here in the heart of the heartland. With reports from our award-winning broadcast team of Dustin Hoffman, Riley Smith, and Mark Magnuson. Now, from the IARN studios in Des Moines, here's Mark Magnuson.
Hello and welcome into Ag Matters PM on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. I'm Mark Magnuson. Today is Monday, November 25th, the start of Thanksgiving week here in 2024. We thank you so much for joining today's show. Coming up later in the show, I will be joined by Robin Schmahl of agmarket.net for our closing markets. But to start things off today, I am joined by Isaac Anderson of Winfield United as we talk about an interesting discussion topic of what to do as a farmer right now when costs remain high, but those prices for commodities have gone a little bit lower.
Mark Magnuson for the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, and I'm joined today by Isaac Anderson. He is with Winfield United. And Isaac, could you tell me please your role within the organization?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm a market development agronomist, work on our agronomy and product development team at Winfield United, do a lot of product initiation and rollout to our sales teams in the countryside, and then coaching and teaching our retail sellers of how to implement those products at the farm gate. So I cover central and southern Minnesota and then dip into a couple of counties in northern Iowa as well.
So Isaac, I want to just hit the ground running. I'm going to ask you the tough question right off the bat.
Okay.
Time of depressed commodity prices, you know, you hear farmers all the time talking about, well, do I cut any corners? Do I chop something here to try to save money? What's your viewpoint for the overall picture and what farmers should be doing?
Yeah, that's a phenomenal question, especially in this commodity market that we're in that is depressed pricing. And that's the frequent topic, is how do I reduce my farm expenses to try to stay profitable? And the number one reminder from our agronomy team at Winfield United is understand what you're cutting an expense on. So if you're going to use a lower cost herbicide, insecticide, fungicide, seed hybrid or variety, or maybe even just the adjuvants in your tank, whether that's an oil or an AMS water conditioner, understand why a product is less expensive, because typically that boils down to the input of that expense, and when we reduce those, we can tend to lose efficacy and effectiveness of a product that we're using. So I just caution customers, we understand you want to reduce your inputs, your cost per acre. Understand what you're actually reducing that expense towards, because at the end of the day, it can actually end up not boding well, because we can lose efficacy of weed control, we can lose efficacy of fertility and development of that crop. So just be cautious of where we're cutting expenses and why we're cutting them in that area.
And also, just as simply as possible, you might think you're saving money by cutting something on an input side, but at the end of the day, that could be capping your yield a little bit, which is ultimately going to be way worse off for you, isn't it?
Absolutely, and that's one I always caution customers as well, is that the easy area to cut expenses is usually weed management, right? Reducing our herbicides, reducing the load, or using a generic, which could have a different concentration of the active ingredient or a different formulation, and we think, well great, I reduced my cost per acre on weed control, then we get subsequently less weed control, and what are weeds going to compete against? Our crop for water, nutrition, fertility, sunlight. So it's a risky area to get aggressive in expense reduction. So just encourage customers, work with your local crop advisor, understand where can I cut expense that isn't going to result in a detrimental consequence to my crop.
Isaac, what role does data play for Winfield United in all of these discussions we've been having so far here today?
Oh, data's king for us. I mean, if you can't prove out why you want to use a product or a service, then really you don't have the validation of what you're trying to accomplish. So our answer plot system is king. We generate about 6 million data points a year out of our answer plot system, and that helps us build confidence in our retail sellers and our farmer customers that there's a reason we make the recommendations about the products we do, the rates we do, the tank mixes that we recommend, because we can validate the efficacy and the outcome of using those products. So encourage people to work with your local retailer to get local answer plot data, get replicated information about how a product works, what the efficacy is, and it can give you a predictable outcome for your acre. And really that's what you need in a depressed commodity market, is you need predictability. And hopefully that helps you maintain profitability. And at the end of the day, to your point, data is what creates that. Data creates predictability. And we all know Mother Nature hates the word predictability. So if we can use some data to help us with all of our inputs in our crop management, that helps us kind of leverage against the unpredictability of Mother Nature.
Isaac, is there anything else you'd like to let our Iowa viewers, our Iowa growers know about when it comes to Winfield United, and just anything you're excited about going into 2025?
Yeah, great question. Appreciate the opportunity. I just encourage people to reach out to your local Winfield United retailer. Like I said, our answer plot systems are a lot of data, but they're also local. And there's a lot of different management that gets applied to those answer plots that are applicable to that geography. All of our nitrogen management data is by answer plot location and is prescriptive to the yield output of that answer plot. So it's a great way to get local data, local information that's applicable to your farm, right? It's similar soil types, similar geography and climate. So that'd be my main recommendation. Is not everything is exciting going into a depressed commodity market into 25, and one way to reinvigorate some of that excitement is to look at some data, look at management techniques that you can implement on the farm to help you have hopefully a successful and profitable 2025 crop year.
Isaac Anderson with Winfield United, my guest here today. Isaac, thanks so much for the time. Very interesting conversation. Have a great rest of the Trade Talk.
Thanks, Mark. Same to you. Appreciate the conversation.
Thank you to Isaac Anderson of Winfield United for joining today's episode. Coming up next, it is time now for a word from our sponsor, the Iowa Soybean Association and the Soybean Checkoff. And then we will have the closing markets here on Ag Matters PM.
Iowa Soybean Association is driven to deliver for Iowa's 40,000 soybean farmers. We're proud to provide objective agronomic research, a helping hand with soil and water stewardship, and timely industry news powered by the Soybean Checkoff. Learn more at iasoybeans.com.
You're watching Ag Matters PM, and it is time now for the closing markets. I'm joined now by Robin Schmahl of agmarket.net. Robin, sometimes in weeks like this, shortened weeks because of a holiday, seems like things get a little bit quiet in the trade. Is that the case today in the grains?
Well, it doesn't seem like it got a little more quiet. We saw the weakness in corn, but we saw a little bit of minor, strength in soybeans early, but then it kind of backed off. Really, the leader was the soybean meal. Soybean oil fell down lower, continued their steep sell-off they've been having recently. So I don't think it was really a really lightening up or kind of more of a quiet market. I think the trading volume was fairly good. Now, we had exports inspections today. Corn came into the high end of the trading expectations at 903,049 metric ton. The soybeans, 2.102 million metric ton. That was close to the high end of the range as well. Wheat, close to the high end of the range at 360,513 metric ton. Those numbers really didn't seem to have much impact on the market. We did have overnight sales of corn to Mexico, which was a large sale of 454,090 metric ton. We did have some soybeans go to an unknown destination of 198,000 metric ton, possibly over to China. Now, Ag Rural estimates soybean plantings at 86% complete versus 74 last year. So the concern we had earlier, that's kind of been dissipated. And they're looking at near to above normal rainfall over the next 14 days. So really the things are moving along fairly well as far as weather is concerned down in Brazil. So that's the earlier issue of the dryness really doesn't seem to be any kind of a problem right now. Now, Friday, December, grain options went off the board. First notice day on this Friday. That may have had some influence on trading today. Some of the maybe rolling out of positions, long positions into the next month. Really didn't see any real spread trading taking place in that, but it's something that to be cognizant of, that we are going to see the first notice day, the day after Thanksgiving, which is a shorter trading day. So all in all, we just saw mixed trading and nothing any providing any real solid direction.
On Friday, we got a cattle on feed report after the markets closed. How did the cattle and hogs trade today?
Well, today, first of all, I'll say that the cattle on feed report was a little negative to the market. We did see higher placement numbers, lower marketings, a little bit higher on feed numbers, but that all went by the wayside this morning. Feeder cattle led the charge, supported by the cattle imports from Mexico being restricted due to New World screwworm that was found in one animal. And so that lit the fire under the market. We saw feeder cattle go over $5 higher at one point during the day. That was more so early in the day. They backed off from there as the market digested that. So that information, we've brought in a lot of cattle to make up for some of the shortfall we have in the U.S. For slaughter and to fill in the cracks there because of our tighter numbers. This could be a bigger deal, but it was initial knee-jerk reaction. Now, live cattle are supported by the feeder cattle because they were kind of a tug of war between what the cattle on feed report said to what the feeder cattle were reacting to. They were higher, but right to the close, we started to see the live cattle back off, and they went into negative territory in those nearby months. Now, it's uncertain whether the packers will need more animals this holiday shortened week. Depends on how many cattle were purchased for deferred delivery. Now, box beef prices were higher at midday, with choice up 236 and select up 77 on the hog side. We did see continued support. April and later contracts pushed to new contract highs today, with June and July over $100. They're surprising to see that continued strength in there after cutouts really struggled last week. The National Direct report today was not released due to packer confidentiality, and that was coming on the heels of no release of the change in cash on Friday afternoon as well. So we really don't know where that's at right now. But cutouts really turned the corner today. They were up very strong on buying interest, with values up $4.38. So we continue to see that market being supported and looking for higher prices.
Robin, what's the best way for our viewers to get in touch for more marketing information?
Well, they can call me directly at 877-256-3253, or they can go to our website, agmarket.net. There's another 844 number on there, and they can feel free to call in.
Robin Schmahl of agmarket.net, our guest today for Closing Markets. Robin, thank you for the time. Appreciate it. Have a great Thanksgiving.
It's always appreciate being on, and you have a great Thanksgiving as well.
Thank you to Robin Schmahl of agmarket.net for our Closing Markets. It's time now for a check of the closing numbers, and once again, you can find those anytime under the Markets tab of our website at iowaagnet.com.
December corn closes down 3/4 cent at 4.24 3/4. January soybeans up 2 1/4 at 9.85 3/4. December soybean meal up 4.50 at 2.93.70. December soybean oil down 56 cents at 41.21. Chicago wheat down 8 1/2 at 5.35 3/4. Minneapolis wheat down 4 even at 5.82 even. Kansas City hard red wheat down 7 3/4 at 5.46 1/2. December oats down 4 1/4 at 3.45 even. On the Merc, December live cattle down 27 cents at 186.50. January feeder cattle up $1.17 at 255.47. December lean hogs up 30 cents at 81.97. December pork cutout up 90 cents at 92.30. Class 3 milk down 3 pennies at 18.44.
That wraps up our Closing Markets for today, and it brings us to the end of today's episode. You can find all of our content on our website at iowaagnet.com. You can also follow us on YouTube and click on the notification icon as well. That will let you know whenever we have any new videos available for you. Check us out on social media as well at Facebook, X, TikTok, and LinkedIn. And you can listen to our morning, midday, and closing market podcast wherever you find your favorite podcast at Apple, Amazon, Google, Spotify, and Podbean. It's also the home of our daily Iowa Ag Matters podcast. From the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network studios in Des Moines, I'm Mark Magnuson. For Riley Smith, Dustin Huffman, and Andy Peterson, we thank you for watching. This has been Ag Matters PM.